Meet Jim Prophet. He's always there with a kind word.
You look lovely.
A helping hand.
You know what your boss is? He's a damn lifesaver.
He asks for nothing but your trust.
But I'm gonna have to ask you for one small favor. I could really use 20 uninterrupted minutes in your boss's computer.
Because that's all he needs.
I got my eye on you.
To destroy you. Fox invites you to enter a world of treachery.
Tell me that you feel as rotten as I do.
I don't. I feel worse.
Manipulation.
The line most people say they won't cross. It's usually something they've already done when they thought no one was watching.
Murder.
You know, I bet you could even fire a gun here. Nobody'd hear a thing.
And the man who does it all for fun and profit. Profit. Coming soon to Fox.
Welcome back, friends. Today, we're kicking off a brand new series called Too Soon TV, where we dig into those almost great shows from the 80s and 90s that disappeared before they ever got a fair shot. These are the series that burned bright, flopped fast, and then left us wondering what might have been. The ones that were ahead of their time, misunderstood, or just unlucky enough to air on the wrong night. And we're starting with a big one. In April of 1996, Fox aired one of the boldest dramas the network had ever produced. Critics called it rip-roarin', bold and wonderful, and then, less than a month later, it was gone. The show was titled Prophet, a corporate thriller about a man so brilliant, so manipulative, and morally bankrupt that he made Jordan Belfort look like a summer intern. It ran just 4 episodes, yet nearly 30 years later, it's remembered as a series that predicted everything from Breaking Bad to Mad Men. So why did a show that critics loved vanish faster than a quarterly bonus? Was it too dark for primetime? Or too honest about how power actually works? Well, let's open the cardboard box, log into the 90s cyber mainframe, and find out why Prophet was the definition of too soon TV. The premise. Our anti-hero is Jim Prophet, played by Adrian Pasdar. He's the picture of mid-90s success. Tailored suit, slick hair, and a smile that could sell mutual funds to Satan. By day, he's a rising executive at the global corporation Grayson & Grayson, a company so cold and chrome-plated that it practically smells like new fax toner. But by night, Prophet removes the mask. Literally. He slips out of his suit, climbs into a cardboard box branded with the company logo, and sleeps naked inside of it. It's a haunting ritual tied to a childhood of neglect, raised by a father who locked him in a box and left the TV on as his only companion. It's one of the single weirdest and most unforgettable images on 90s network TV. That box became the show's mission statement. A man so molded by corporate trauma that he literally lives inside it. From the opening shot, Prophet tells us everything that we need to know. This isn't about greed, it's about pathology. Each episode followed Jim's campaign to climb G&G's executive ladder. He blackmails, gaslights, and occasionally murders his way upward, all while narrating his schemes directly to the camera like a psychopathic life coach. Jim is charismatic, calculating, and disturbingly likable. One critic wrote in 1996, Prophet is a brilliant, ruthless, cyberspatial Richard III. And that comparison was intentional. Co-creators David Greenwalt and John McNamara openly modeled the series on Shakespeare's scheming villain. Even the setting felt Shakespearean. A corporate kingdom filled with duplicitous VPs, a family dynasty of shareholders, and a lone security chief. Joanne Meltzer, played by Lisa Zane, who suspects the truth but can't yet prove it. It was Richard III meets Wall Street meets cyberpunk, broadcast on a Monday night after Melrose Place. Why it was ahead of its time. To understand why Prophet flopped, you have to understand just how radical it was for 1996. Remember, this was the era of feel-good, must-see TV. NBC had Friends, Seinfeld, and ER. CBS was successfully airing Touched by an Angel. Even Fox, the edgy network, was defined by The X-Files and Melrose Place. Then along came Prophet, a show whose lead character is a smiling sociopath with zero remorse. Jim doesn't seek redemption. He doesn't secretly hate himself. He loves winning, the kind of protagonist that was unheard of on broadcast TV. In the decades since, we've built entire prestige television empires on characters like Tony Soprano, Don Draper, Walter White, and Villanelle. But in 1996, network TV simply was not ready to follow the bad guy home. The show's tone was another curveball for the audience as well. It wasn't just a thriller. It was a corporate horror story wrapped in a high-gloss design. Where other shows made boardrooms look aspirational, Prophet turned them into sterile battlefields lit like morgues. Every chrome surface reflected not success, but rot. And then there was the technology. The series visualized computer hacking through an early VR interface. Prophet navigates a 3D office environment, opening digital filing cabinets with a virtual hand, and all this was years before Hollywood learned how to make any of that look cool. Of course, the footage is dated now, but in 1996, that was some pretty next-level stuff. It predicted the internet as control fantasy that shows like Mr. Robot would later perfect. Even the storytelling was unconventional. The pilot was a feature-length movie, a slow-burn chess game about manipulation, guilt, and of course, power. Episodes also didn't just reset like typical procedurals. They instead stacked consequences. Characters remembered. Actions mattered. That serialized writing style would later define TV in the 2000s. However, in 1996, this was a relatively foreign concept. Prophet was also thematically audacious. It wasn't about crime or cops or law. It was about corporate evil and the way big businesses reward sociopathy. The show's moral universe didn't revolve around justice. It revolved around quarterly reports. Prophet didn't kill for pleasure. He killed for promotion. He was kind of like capitalism's perfect child. And that was the scariest thing about him. Had Prophet premiered on HBO in, let's say, 2001, critics would have hailed it as visionary. However, on broadcast television in 1996, sandwiched between ad breaks for Taco Bell and a Ford Taurus, it was a nightmare that no one knew how to market. So, how did that happen? How did one of the most acclaimed pilots of the 90s disappear after a month? Despite critics raving about the show, viewers were left confused or left offended, or sometimes both. Some affiliates refused to air it, citing its immoral content. Others buried it behind local news. One executive later admitted that Prophet scared the station owners more than it scared the audience. And this isn't even talking about the ratings. The 2-hour premiere drew moderate numbers. However, by week 2, viewership dropped nearly 25%. Fox canceled the show after airing just 4 out of the 8 completed episodes. But there's also a deeper reason that Prophet couldn't survive. It wasn't just simply too dark. It violated television's oldest contract, that the main character must be someone viewers want to root for. Jim Prophet was not redeemable. He did not break bad. He starts bad and stays there. He's not a vigilante, not a victim, not even charming in the usual sense. He's pure willpower. In one sense, that's what made the character fascinating. But in 1996, advertisers and focus groups didn't find psychopath in a suit, particularly bankable. Fox just really didn't know how to sell Profit. The network's promos hyped it as a thrilling new drama about success and seduction, which made it kind of sound like Melrose Place Wall Street edition. But what actually aired was something entirely different, a cold and clinical character study about corporate amorality. Even critics, while praising the show, sensed that it was doomed from the start. The Los Angeles Times' Howard Rosenberg called it provocative and brilliant, and then added that it's too good for its time. And it turned out Rosenberg was right. Behind the scenes, co-creator David Greenwalt would go on to Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, while John McNamara was going to Lois and Clark and Fast Track. They were TV veterans, but they accidentally made a show better suited for cable a decade later than for network TV in 1996. The Legacy. After cancellation, Profit became a ghost. For years, it circulated as a cult bootleg, passed around at sci-fi conventions and labs at film schools. Then, in 2005, Anchor Bay released a DVD titled Profit: The Complete Series. It included the 4 unaired episodes, audio commentaries from Greenwalt and McNamara, and a making-of documentary called Greed Kills. For the first time, fans could finally see the full story arc, and critics could reevaluate it in context. The reevaluation was glowing. TV Guide ranked Profit number 4 on its "Canceled Too Soon" list. Salon ran an essay calling it The Lost Profit, a show that tried to tell the truth about the corporate id and was punished for it. Fans compared Jim Profit to Tony Soprano, Don Draper, and Frank Underwood, all anti-heroes who thrived in the world that Profit helped build. And they're right. You can draw a direct line from Profit's office manipulations to the boardroom games of Succession, from his calculated charm to Don Draper's emotional vacuum. Even the show's visual language, glass walls, low lighting, chrome despair, echoes through modern prestige television. But what keeps Profit relevant isn't just its influence. It's the show's diagnosis. It understood, long before most shows did, that corporate psychopathy doesn't look like a monster. It looks like a promotion. That's why the series still feels modern. Because Profit's evil isn't personal, it's systemic. He's the perfect employee in a world that rewards ruthlessness over empathy. And the show's final episodes do drive that point home. Profit manipulates shareholders, destroys his rivals, and emerges untouched. And not because he's superhuman, but because the system protects people like him. It's the darkest kind of realism. And that's exactly why it didn't belong on network TV in 1996. Outro. Profit was a show that told the truth too early. It wasn't a failure of execution. It was a failure of context. Fox wanted to push boundaries, but the world it was broadcasting to wasn't ready to see itself so clearly reflected in Jim Profit's dead-eyed smile. If you watch the show Profit today, the show feels shockingly current. Swap out the CRT monitors for MacBooks and the modems for Zoom calls and it could air on Netflix tomorrow. The dialogue about corporate culture, image making, and emotional manipulation has never been more relevant. And that's why it deserves its place here on Too Soon TV. And I can personally highly recommend watching Profit if you haven't already. I'm pretty sure you can even find the episode somewhere on YouTube. So what do you think? Was Profit canceled because it went too far or because it cut too close to home? What show do you think we should cover next on this Too Soon TV series? Let us know in the comments below. And if you love deep dives into brilliant TV gone too soon, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and ring the notification bell to stay caught up on our content.